Today we're going to learn how to write linear equations when given 2 points that are on the line they represent. To write the equation of a line, we always need two things: a point and that's on the line, and a slope, well, the slope of the line, or we need enough information to find the slope. We've been writing linear equations of the form y equals mx plus b, which is slope-intercept form. The m stands for the slope, and the b stands for the y-intercept. So anytime you write an equation in this form, you need those two pieces of information. I'm going to show you a couple different ways how to find the slope and y-intercept when you're just given 2 points. The first one is probably the one that comes most naturally to you. It is to graph those 2 points and then to look for the slope and y-intercept. So I'm going to graph -4 and 8, -4, 8, right there, and then 2, 5. Now remember, my goal is that I want to find the equation of this line. Let's graph the line. Okay. I want to find the equation of this line, so I need to find the m, or the slope, and then the b, the y-intercept. Now, this y-intercept looks like it's crossing at 6, but I don't always draw my line super straight, so we're going to find the slope first and use that to find the y-intercept and help us out. So when I find my slope, I usually draw a slope triangle, and I do, okay, so we go down and then right. Down 3 is -3, and then right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is +6. So I'm going to put this in my slope fraction, which is change in y over change in x, or rise over run. And I get -3 over 6, which equals negative, both of those are divisible by 3, so I'm going to get -1/2. So that's my slope. I already found one number, and it hasn't even been that long. Now my y-intercept, I think it's 6. Here's how I check though. I'm going to take that slope fraction that I just found of -1/2, and I'm going to make little points down 1 and right 2 along the line. Okay, so that works. So I know, because I counted out my slope, that that is a point on the line, and my y-intercept will be 6. So we're going to write our equation y equals mx plus b, and just plug in those numbers that we found. Our slope is -1/2, and our b, our y-intercept, is 6. Now, you may not always have the ability to graph your points. What if they're super far apart? What if one of them is a fraction? Then you're going to have a hard time. So let's talk about a different way to find the slope and y-intercept. And you actually did part of this way in a previous video that I did when you were given the slope and a point. So this is algebraically. We're going to use the slope formula to figure out the slope first, and then we're going to solve for our y-intercept. So I know that my slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which is really just change in y over change in x, but now it's a little more fancy. And then my points were, let's change colors on this, xy, xy, and you just choose one of them to be first. I'm going to choose the first one to be first. Then I'm going to plug the values into my formula. So y2 goes -7, minus y1 was 9, and then x2 is -1, and x1 is 3 minus 3. Okay, so you got to be careful. If you have your negatives after, like, let's say this was -3, then you need to have minus -3. So be careful about that. Okay, there's my pen's working. I was a little panicked. Okay, so now we're going to simplify this fraction and figure out what our slope is. -7 minus 9 is -16. And then -1 minus 3 is negative 4. When I divide those, a negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 16 divided by 4 is 4. Okay, so now I've found my slope, and you always need to find your slope first because you can't actually find your y-intercept without your slope when you're doing it this way. So I'm going to just take what I know and put it into my equation y equals mx plus b, and then find out what b is. What do I put in for y and x? Well, I'm just going to pick one of the points. We did this when we had a point and a slope. Now I have 2 points and a slope, so I have options. So we're going to put this point in there because it doesn't have any negatives, so that'll be nicer. I'm going to put my y in, it will be 9, and then my slope was 4, and then my x was 3, and then plus b. So now b is 12 plus b equals 9. Now you may be tempted to say that it's 3. I would recommend that you actually go through the work and subtract 12 from both sides because 9 minus 12 actually equals negative 3. So we found our slope and our y-intercept, and now we can write our equation. Y equals 4x minus 3. Now, if you're ever confused on whether or not you did it right on this way, you can always check by graphing it. So we're going to graph our 2 points. 3, 9, and negative 1, negative 7. And wow, it's definitely positive. But I was supposed to have a y-intercept of negative 3, and it didn't work out. So let's use our little slope method to figure that out. 4 up, 1 to the right. 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 Perfect. There we go. See, this is why this one was better to do a formula with, because I had no idea what my y-intercept was. But it worked. Those 2 points did have a slope of 4, and they did intersect at negative 3. Okay, so let's review these 2 methods real quick. From your graph, you're going to use a slope triangle to find your m. And for your y-intercept, you're just going to look for where it crosses the y-axis, where the line crosses the y-axis. When you're doing it algebraically, you need to do the slope formula first to find your m. And then for your b, you're going to plug in to y equals mx plus b and solve for b. Ooh, that got a little hectic there. There we go. So you're going to find your m first and then your b first, and I think that's probably a safe way to go with any of these because your y-intercept can be pretty hard to tell.